He wasn't just another biker drifting toward the patch. He was Ventura's newest Hell's Angel, the young outlaw chosen while the man who ran the entire chapter sat behind bars. A kid with old-school values in a world that didn't reward innocence. And yes, everyone knew Josh carried a patch. Everyone knew that made him a target. But as his family would later say, no patch gives anyone the right to decide who lives and who dies. No one had the right to steal Josh from them. So the question still haunts Arizona. Who pulled the trigger that night in Cave Creek? Was it a stranger hidden in the desert dark? A rival with a score to settle? Or someone far closer than anyone wants to admit? In desperation and grief, Josh's family put up a $20,000 reward, cash set aside, untouched, waiting for the one person brave enough to finally speak. Anonymous tips go through silent witness. No names, no faces, just truth. His father raised the reward again, hoping time had loosened tongues and softened fear. "We loved him," the family said. "We lost a piece of our heart, and we want an answer. I want a face." This isn't just a murder investigation. It's a story of silence, betrayal, and a killing that still hangs over Ventura like a storm trapped in desert heat. December 2001. The federal detention center was suffocating, steel, concrete, and the stale echo of locked doors. George Christie sat inside, fighting a 59-count federal indictment. A protective order barred him from speaking to any Hell's Angels. He was isolated, cut off, sealed away. And yet word traveled. In places like that, names flow through vents and cracks like smoke. The name that reached him was Josh Arbor. Josh wasn't just some club groupie buzzing around the edges. He'd grown up around Christie's son and the younger Ventura members. A little younger, maybe, but every bit the outlaw, old school, disciplined, carrying himself the way the veterans did. He had that old-timer look, one member said. He dressed like David Ortega. He moved like David. He wasn't imitating. He was inheriting. To many, Josh looked like the future, a young biker molded in the image of tradition. Then came the message. Even from solitary, David Ortega managed to get word inside. They wanted to bring Josh up for a vote. Christie couldn't speak to his club, couldn't advise, couldn't guide. But this mattered. So he sent his answer back through the same underground pipeline. He trusted David, always had. "Josh has my support." Not long after, the prison summoned Christie for a visit. No warning, no explanation. He walked into the visiting room, and there sat Josh Arbor, no longer a prospect, no longer waiting. He was a Hell's Angel now. A glass wall separated them, but the moment hit like thunder. Christie shook his hand through the barrier and welcomed him into the club, behind bars under surveillance, and yet somehow more real than any ceremony outside. It was the beginning of Josh's new chapter, and the beginning of a mystery that still burns unanswered. He was convinced Josh would be the one to carry Ventura into its next chapter. But in the outlaw world, belief is a brittle thing, and loyalty is a currency tested every single day. Josh had barely had time to feel the weight of that new patch on his back before fate began circling. 6 months after that moment of promise, he would be standing outside a bar in Cave Creek, Arizona, and within seconds, he'd be lying dead on the pavement. So what happened between those 2 points in time? How did a young prospect, freshly baptized into one of the most feared brotherhoods on the West Coast, end up executed on a quiet desert night just half a year later? Was it a tragic twist of chance, or had the crosshairs been on him from the very start? And if someone marked him, who whispered the order, and why? His climb into the Ventura charter was fast, suspiciously fast, some would say. His fall was faster. The brutality of his killing sent a cold ripple through the entire outlaw landscape. And yet, when the smoke settled, no one stepped forward. No brother talked. No explanation ever surfaced. Josh Harbor's story begins with promise, loyalty, and a patch earned under the shadow of fear. But it ends with blood drying on desert asphalt, and a silence more threatening than any gunshot. June 2002, Cave Creek, Arizona. The desert held its heat long after sunset, the kind of heavy warmth that clings to your skin. The Kill Coyote Wild Bar buzzed with life. Inside, music pounded, glasses collided, and Ventura's outlaws blended with locals, drifters, and hangarounds looking for a piece of the chaos. Josh's death. But outside, beneath a flickering neon glow, something far more sinister was taking shape. Josh Harbor stood near the entrance, calm, cigarette burning between his fingers, completely unaware that he was only seconds from being erased. Witnesses would later recall how a man walked straight toward him. Josh was standing out in front of the bar, and this guy approaches him. No shouting, no tension. They were close enough to touch. Then everything snapped. The larger man reached into his waistband, drew a pistol, shoved it up under Josh's chin, and fired. One shot. Cold. Precise. Final. The killer didn't run. He simply turned and slipped into the darkness. And that's where the story fractures. Some witnesses swore the shooter was white, 6'1", heavy-set, broad. It wasn't much to go on. What we're hoping, investigators said, is that someone in that parking lot, someone driving by, has that missing piece we don't. But others were adamant. The killer wasn't white at all. Club members whispered he was Mexican, long curly hair, a face well known inside Ventura's orbit. I was told by guys who were there the shooter wasn't white. He was Mexican with long hair. And that matched the exact man I'd always suspected. Confusion smothered the scene. And as Josh collapsed onto the asphalt, the outlaw code settled over the crowd like a shroud. Silence, thick, unbreakable, and deliberate. So, who was the man holding the gun? Was this a personal score settled in the middle of Arizona? A warning from rivals? Or something darker? Something born from the internal politics, debts, and grudges inside the club itself? The aftermath only made the mystery bleed wider. Just weeks later, Hoover, the Cave Creek charter president, was murdered down the street from the same bar. Not long after Josh's killing, Hoover shot too, and law enforcement and the Angels themselves claimed Sonny and I were feuding, like it was some classic tit-for-tat, like I ordered the hit. But Ventura insiders told a different story altogether. For some, Josh had been a marked man long before that night. His death felt less like chaos and more like a delayed reckoning, an old score resurfacing. Detectives swarmed Ventura in the days that followed. They pushed for statements, hunted for cracks, tried to pry truth out of a world built on silence. When I got back from Spain, 2 Phoenix cold case detectives showed up at my home, wanted to ask about Josh. And that wasn't the first time. Right after the murder, they interviewed several Ventura members at my daughter's law office. And the result was exactly what you'd expect. No one saw anything. No one said a word. My daughter warned them beforehand, you won't get a statement. Nobody's going to talk. Because in the outlaw world, the law doesn't solve murders. Silence does. And Josh Harbor's murder was buried under that silence. The killer never named, never caught, never even seriously threatened. A young man patched into the Angels in December, gone by June. His blood staining the desert. His death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a question left hanging in the heat of Arizona night. A reminder that inside this world, the line separating loyalty from betrayal is razor thin. And once you cross it, there's no coming back. The first name to rise from the dust was one every Ventura Angel already knew too well. The insane biker, Robert Chico Mora, a man with a past soaked in violence and a reputation that flipped from ally to threat long before the 2000s arrived. What lingered between him and Ventura wasn't history. It was unfinished business. Old grudges, bail money disputes, stolen VIN numbers, and a trail of reckless brutality that stretched across years. Chico had lived a life full of reasons for someone to want revenge. George Christie remembered him clearly, remembered the volatility, the unpredictability, the sense that Chico was a fuse waiting for a spark. And over the years, Christie recalled, my focus kept narrowing to one man, Robert Chico Mora. I knew he was capable. He'd already done time for murdering some guys from a small bike club. Bad company maybe. I can't remember exactly. But there was bad blood between Ventura and Chico, between Chico and Ortega. The tension had been simmering long before that. Christie remembered bailing him out, remembered how his own daughter had represented Chico in court, setting everything up perfectly, only for Chico to disappear, skipping bail and humiliating her in the process. I took that personal, Christie said. You don't mess with my family. Chico never respected the code, never understood the unwritten rules that held outlaw brotherhoods together. The last time Christie saw him in person, tempers flared at the clubhouse doors. He thought it was going to turn into fists. Chico stormed off. Then he left town. That was the final face-to-face. So when Josh Harbor was murdered, Christie's mind went straight to him. The description witnesses gave, heavy-set, imposing, fit Chico perfectly. But suspicion isn't evidence. And no evidence ever surfaced. Chico had clashed with Ventura, clashed with Ortega, and carried a record that proved he was capable of killing. But there was more beneath the surface, club politics, resentments, and fractures between charters. There'd been a blow-up between Chico's charter and Ventura, Christie explained. It was a mess. The Ventura guys pulled the Arizona members' patches. I never had much respect for Chico after that. The way he treated my daughter, his attitude, his total lack of respect toward Ventura. It said everything. So the questions lingered. Did Josh unknowingly walk into Chico's line of fire? Or was Chico acting as someone else's weapon, carrying out a grudge that wasn't entirely his? Because behind the smoke, the shots, and the rumors was something much larger. Ventura and Cave Creek were never as close as they pretended to be. Politics flowed beneath the surface like poison. Hoover, the Cave Creek president, was at odds with Christie. And just weeks after Josh's murder, Hoover was killed, not far from the same bar. Coincidence? Or a chain reaction? Was Josh Harbor simply caught in the undertow of a feud far bigger than he ever realized? The desert doesn't speak, but it doesn't forget either. Today, the asphalt outside the Kill Coyote Wild Bar looks ordinary, clean, empty, silent. No flowers, no memorials, no plaque with Josh's name. Just a patch of road where a life was taken and a mystery sealed. Detectives pushed hard in the aftermath. They knocked on Ventura doors, pressed Christie's family, tried to shatter the wall of silence. Hi, I'm Sergeant Darren Birch. One video plea began. Silent Witness and the Phoenix Police Department need your help solving the cold case murder of 24-year-old Josh Harbor. He was shot and killed outside the Coyote Wild Bar on June 8, 2002. Christie's daughter told them the hard truth before the questioning even began. No one was going to talk. And she was right. Because in the outlaw world, silence is more than a shield. It's the law. Rumors rushed in to fill the vacuum left behind. Law enforcement floated their own theory. Christie had ordered the retaliations, pointing to the European Hells Angels who appeared in Ventura not long after Josh was murdered. To them, it looked like a storm gathering, international muscle arriving to settle a score. But inside the outlaw world, a different set of whispers spread. Some said Josh's killing was just one move in a larger, deadlier chess match between charters. A blow struck in a quiet war no outsider ever saw coming. Every rumor painted a new version of the truth, yet none could be pinned down. Every story contradicted the last. Every theory dissolved as fast as it surfaced. And then there was Chico. Christie's suspicion never faded. Not in 2002. Not in 2010. Not ever. Years after Josh's murder, Christie crossed paths with Chico again. One final moment, One final stare, a memory that burned into him like a brand. When asked what he'd say to Chico if he could deliver a message, Christie didn't hesitate. "Well, he's dead. But if he could hear me, I'd tell him, 'Chico, I'll see you in hell, man, and we'll deal with this.'" Was that anger? Was it guilt? Or was it something darker? A prophecy Christie believed would eventually come true? If Chico really pulled the trigger that night, then why did justice never land on his doorstep? Why no arrest? No charges? No trial? And if he didn't shoot Josh, then who else wanted him gone badly enough to execute him on a public street? 2 decades later, the same questions float like smoke that refuses to clear. Was Josh Harbor the victim of a personal grudge? A casualty of internal club politics? A young soldier crushed in a power struggle far bigger than he ever imagined? The truth is buried. Buried in silence, buried in fear, buried in a code that shields brothers even from beyond the grave. For Josh Harbor, a young outlaw who rose fast and died faster, the only legacy that remains is the haunting mystery of who wanted him erased and why. Because in the world of the Hells Angels, stories rarely end with answers. They end with silence, and silence leaves behind the darkest shadows of all. The Hells Angels Motorcycle Club is one of the most famous groups and easily the largest motorcycle club in the world, with a membership of over 6,467 chapters in 59 different countries. You might be wondering what makes this motorcycle club so special. Well, there are several reasons why anyone would want to join the Hells Angels. While a love of motorcycles is easily one of the most common motives, a sense of belonging, especially in an infamous club once shrouded in an aura of mystery and respect, is another. From a distance, the Hells Angels seem so cool, and it's easy for many to be enticed into wanting to join. However, joining this club isn't for the faint-hearted. Since many do not make the cut, becoming a full member of the Hells Angels can take a really long time, sometimes spanning years. To become a member of the Hells Angels, candidates are first expected to be true motorcycle enthusiasts. They must also own a valid driver's license and a motorcycle of over 750 cubic centimeters, as the average member is expected to ride at least 20,000 kilometers a year in strict formation. Candidates are also required to drive U.S.-built motorcycles, with Harley-Davidson, Indian, and Victory being the most common brands. Prospective members who have applied to be law enforcement officers, such as prison guards or police, are excluded from a club. Child molesters are also not allowed. The initiation process starts with the candidate passing the above criteria. Once that is out of the way, the candidate, now considered a prospective member, enters the stage of being deemed a hang-around. As a hang-around, prospective members are invited to meet older club members at some club meetings, and this stage could last for a long time. If the hang-around still shows interest at this stage, they are then deemed an associate. They remain classified this way for a year or 2. After these years pass, an associate is reclassified as a prospect and is now allowed to fully participate in some of the club's activities. However, they do not have voting privileges since the initiation process is still underway. If the prospect proves they have what it takes, they are then upgraded to full membership or full patch, which is the last phase of the initiation process. The full patch refers to the club's 4-piece insignia given to its members. This includes the Death Head logo, 2 rockers, a top rocker with the words Hells Angels, and a bottom rocker showing the country, state, or charter location. Rectangular MC patch beneath the wings of the Death Head signifies Motorcycle Club. Prospects are only allowed to wear the bottom rocker along with the MC patch. The final stage of becoming a full member begins with the voting process. A prospect can only become a full member or full patch when they are unanimously voted in by all full members of the club. Hence, a prospect is often required to travel across chapters in their country and introduce themselves to other members. Voting becomes easier once these members have gotten to know the prospect and have vetted them. The prospect must receive 100% of the votes, as a single vote against them means the prospecting stage continues until they are fully voted in. Once they have been voted in, prospects are required to reaffirm their loyalty to the club, and the Hells Angels rocker is finally awarded to them as the final part of the initiation ceremony. At this stage, known as being patched, prospects become full members. Full members of the Hells Angels are recognized by their infamous insignia, the full patch, but this remains the property of the club, not the member, even after the initiation process. The club's official colors are red lettering on a white background, leading to the nickname the Red and White. Members wear their patches on leather or denim jackets and vests. Some members wear an AFFA patch, meaning Angels Forever, Forever Angels, indicating lifelong membership. Another patch consists of two Nazi-style SS lightning bolts beneath the words Filthy Few, worn by select members. According to the club, this patch is a type of merit badge awarded to members who are first to arrive at and last to leave a party. However, some law enforcement officers allege that this patch is worn by members who have committed or are willing to commit murder on behalf of the club. In some cases, members may wear patches that signify their rank within the organization. These small, rectangular patches display the titles of the members in red letters on a white background. Common titles include President, Sergeant-at-Arms, Treasurer, Vice President, and more. If a member is ejected from the club or chooses to leave, they are required to return their patches to the club. Members are expected to pay dues that finance burials and motorcycle runs. Attendance at club meetings and motorcycle runs is also mandatory. Contrary to popular belief, most Hells Angels members are not drug addicts. The club prohibits intravenous drug use, and many members are known to be fitness enthusiasts. According to Jay Dobbins, an investigative agent who went undercover and infiltrated the Hells Angels from 2001 to 2003, the club has strict rules concerning interactions with women. Wives or girlfriends of members are strictly off-limits, and violations of this rule are met with severe, often violent, consequences. Dobbins also mentioned that members are not allowed to speak to one another while wearing sunglasses. Additionally, members must remove their riding gloves before shaking hands. Prospects are forbidden from patting a member's back or touching the Hells Angels patch, with severe consequences for breaking this rule. Those who leave the club on bad terms have all possessions related to the club taken away from them, including the removal of tattoos that indicate club affiliation. Prospects, along with members' girlfriends and wives, are allowed to wear the number 81, which stands for Support 81, with 8 representing H and 1 representing A. The Hells Angels do not have an overall president. Instead, the club is governed by regional officers representing localized chapters at monthly meetings. These chapters have a degree of autonomy regarding minor policy changes and member discipline. Rankings in the club's organization include president, vice president, secretary, treasurer, sergeant-at-arms, and road captain, each carrying out significant duties. Responsibilities within their chapters vary, and regional officers are divided into 2 groups. The first group comprises those who attend the West Coast Officers Meeting, also known as WESCOM. The Westcom group is charged with conducting the policy actions and affairs of the Hells Angels chapters in the Western United States. The second group includes those who attend the East Coast Officers Meeting, or ECOM, which governs the chapters in the Eastern United States. Although the Hells Angels' founding location was in San Bernardino, California, its unofficial founding location eventually moved to Oakland, California, under the leadership of Sonny Barger, who succeeded Otto Friedli as the de facto national president. This shift made the Oakland chapter one of the most prominent and regarded as first among equals due to Barger's reputation. The Oakland chapter has the largest membership of any chapter in the United States and is responsible for major decision-making within the club. Any other motorcycle club wishing to be affiliated with the Hells Angels must first apply to the Oakland chapter for membership and be monitored and approved by them before being granted membership. The Hells Angels' traditional motto is Angels Forever, Forever Angels. They also have other slogans such as, when we do right, nobody remembers. When we do wrong, nobody forgets. 3 can keep a secret if 2 are dead. And when in doubt, knock them out, the latter coined by New York City chapter member Vincent Big Vinny Girolamo. Joining the Hells Angels is far from easy. Prospective members often spend years on a wait list and devote their remaining years as full members to the club. The Hells Angels are not a casual, recreational group. For many members, joining is one of the best experiences of their lives. But leaving the club is a different matter altogether. Members can only leave if they are expelled, as there is no concept of retirement, except in rare cases where certain members are allowed to depart. Still, some have taken the daring step to leave. One notable example is George Christie. "I felt we became the people we rebelled against, and that's exactly what I told them at the meeting when I left," Christie said. "At one time, we would interact with all the clubs up and down the coast, and by 2011, we were fighting every major outlaw bike club in the United States, plus law enforcement." That's where some people lost perspective of what the initial intent was of the whole outlaw lifestyle. It seemed more military, like an army fighting another army. Christie was a Hells Angels leader for 35 years out of a 40-year membership. He was drawn to the outlaw biker lifestyle as a kid in the mid-1950s when he first saw a long-haired, denim-jacketed biker riding through the streets without a care in the world. Christie described that moment as life-changing. What truly fueled his interest, however, was an incident during high school when his principal accused him of cheating because he scored highly on an IQ test. Christie, who did poorly in school, thought, "If this is a polite society, no thank you," as he left the principal's office. After high school, Christie joined the Marine Corps. When he was discharged, he bought a motorcycle and started hanging out with other biker groups, such as the Satan Slaves and Question Marks, though his ultimate dream was to join the Hells Angels. By 1976, Christie had become a full patch member, and soon after, he rose in rank, founding the Ventura, California chapter in 1978 and even carrying the Olympic torch during the 1984 Los Angeles Games. Despite being a high-ranking member, Christie also worked for the Department of Defense. In 1978, his co-workers discovered he was a Hells Angels leader, a fact that came to light during a brutal conflict with a rival group involving fights, shootings, and bombings, which led to his resignation. Trouble followed Christie. He was later charged with orchestrating a murder-for-hire plot involving a leader of the Mexican Mafia prison gang. While in prison, Christie learned that rival clubs did not fight each other behind bars, which motivated him to push for peace on the streets. By the time he was acquitted in 1987, Christie had already started negotiating peace between rival motorcycle clubs. His efforts seemed successful until the 2002 Laughlin River Run, an annual motorcycle rally in Nevada, where a brawl between the Mongols and Hells Angels left 3 people dead. By 2011, the Hells Angels were embroiled in conflicts with nearly every major outlaw motorcycle club and law enforcement. Christie wanted the wars to end, but others did not share his vision. "I felt that groups were fracturing off, doing their own thing, if you will. It was tough," he said. "I decided that if I stayed in the club, it would strictly be ego-driven. I didn't want to be the guy who used to be a Hells Angels leader." In 2011, Christie made his decision to leave. He walked into a club meeting, announced his departure, removed his patches, and laid them on the table. His final words to his former club members were, "We have become the people that we rebelled against, and I'm gone." While Christie argued that he followed protocols and formally quit the club, it appeared that attempting to leave was a mistake. He was soon accused of being an informant, and his status was changed to out bad, meaning he was no longer in good standing with the Hells Angels and could not have any relations or contact with other members. In essence, he had been excommunicated from a club. Christie claimed he was shamed on social media and faced accusations from people, including strangers. The sense of kinship and community that had initially spurred Christie to join the outlaw biker lifestyle was stripped from him simply because he chose to leave. In an interview, Christie was asked why being out bad still seemed to bother him. His response was, "Being out bad with no contact in the outlaw motorcycle world is like a stigma. They don't want people interacting with you. They don't want people talking to you." Club members, who I was friendly with after I left, had their memberships in jeopardy if they communicated with me. He continued, "When I left, it kind of reminded me of a divorce. At first, everyone wanted to be amiable. They weren't happy about my decision, but they understood it. As things progressed, it became aggressive, and it was hard to take. The phone rings, and you pick up, and it's one of your former brothers telling you you're no longer a friend to us. That's my whole life, because I didn't have many friends outside the club. It was a hard pill to swallow." George Christie wasn't the only one to suffer this tragic fate after leaving the Hells Angels Motorcycle Club.